lao vào tấn công Hasten, có vẻ như anh sẽ không thể đánh bại nó, chỉ bằng các đòn tấn công vật lý, và chiến đấu trên lưng nó là một hành động cực kỳ mạo hiểm. Hơn nữa, môi trường xung quanh cũng rất đáng lo ngại, bởi vì mặt đất gồ ghề khiến anh khó sử dụng Poison Step, cát lún không ổn định, đồng nghĩa với việc sức mạnh kỹ năng của anh bị giảm đi một nửa. Tuy nhiên, may mắn thay, anh vẫn tìm thấy một tia hy vọng trong tình thế này. Trong một lần bị hất văng lên không trung, anh đã phát hiện ra vị trí của cây hướng dương bạc. Loại cây này không phù hợp với môi trường sa mạc, nên anh dễ dàng nhận ra nó. Vấn đề là làm sao để đến đó và lấy nó. And lacking the advantage of swiftness, he couldn't conceive of a method to penetrate its formidable exoskeleton. For the present, he had to endure to hold his ground until he could devise an alternate strategy. The creature lunged for another assault, and he attempted to utilize poison steps to evade, but the earth crumbled beneath him at the critical juncture, sending him sprawling. The monster's attack connected squarely, and he was flung aside, with no hope of regaining his foot. Agony racked his body. He felt as if every bone had been pulverized. Miraculously, he had narrowly averted a direct hit. A full-force blow from the beast would have undoubtedly been fatal. He compelled himself to rise, mending his broken frame as he did so. But if the situation persisted in this manner, victory would remain elusive. If he possessed some form of supplementary power, he could secure the silver sunflower, while the monster was occupied. But he was isolated, alone, unable to breach the creature's defenses. Employing White Dream to subdue, it was utterly pointless. Answering his mental command, Exo began to morph, reconfiguring itself into high-tech footwear designed for extreme velocity. The moment his feet hit the ground, he perceived a dramatic shift in his surroundings. It felt as though he was standing on solid, level terrain. With this newfound speed, he could surely break through the creature's defenses. The monster charged at him once more, but this time, he was prepared, effortlessly evading the attack. He then sprinted behind it, nimbly dodging each of its onslaughts. Finally, he reached the silver sunflower. He snatched it up and secured it, then braced himself to vanquish the beast once and for all. Obtaining its core would be advantageous, but incredibly perilous. The dungeon fell under the association's jurisdiction, so he needed to exercise restraint. A single misstep could jeopardize his entire hunting career. His plan was to impale it with White Dream. But the issue is he can't penetrate its tough exterior. Exa reacted earlier, when he mentioned his speed and the unstable terrain. There's a strong possibility his will is linked to Exa. So, he attempts to transform it into something with heightened, piercing capabilities, something that will allow him to puncture the thick shell, and finally defeat it. It succeeds. Exa morphs into a weapon with immense penetrative force and maximum power output. It resembles a drill head, and Hasten quickly seizes it. He then targets the centipede and hurls the weapon with all his strength. The drill strikes true, burrowing into its armor, before ultimately breaking through completely and emerging from the monster's other side. With that final blow, the creature collapses, and Hasten finally escapes the dungeon. He ponders how long he's been battling this beast. His thoughts drift to Bisu, longing to be back with her. It's been 7 hours since they entered the dungeon. Her fist clenches tightly as she envisions herself ending Hassan for his prolonged abandonment. Hassan strides toward the exit, the silver sunflower clutched in his hand. He nuzzles the bloom, contemplating its potential value on the market. With this windfall, financial worries would vanish for a considerable time, allowing him to indulge in every desire. Finally, he arrives at the dungeon's mouth, where Baisu impatiently awaits. Clearly irritated by the lengthy delay, she appears poised to unleash her fury. But as she seizes him by the collar, he spots alarming purple splotches emerging on her skin. Despite consuming the antidote, lingering in a toxic dungeon inevitably takes its toll. Her condition reveals she's teetering on the brink of collapse. Yet, despite her own suffering, she waited for him, even procuring medicine for his potential injuries. Should he be harmed, Hassan smiles, channeling healing energy to mend her poisoned flesh. A soothing warmth flows through her as the restorative power takes effect. Feels just as soothing as the first time he used it on her. Back in the black market, they then gather their belongings and depart from the dungeon, while Hasten instructs Pori to purge the remaining poison from Basu's body. 2 months swiftly pass since the incident. The pair has conquered a total of 15 poison dungeons. During this period, they've successfully acquired another silver sunflower and 5 bronze ones, Selling these will generate ample funds to support his ideal lifestyle. For several years, Hasten has also grown accustomed to Bice's presence in their home, and the three have forged a stronger connection as they prepare meals, dine, and share laughter together. But after such a long time, Bice's departure is imminent. Hasten spends their final night together sitting outside behind her room, contemplating the inevitable sadness he will feel. He has grown quite fond of her by now. Sometimes, in the stillness of the night, around the same hour each day, she begins uttering peculiar things in her sleep. Perhaps it's an undiagnosed sleep disorder, or a repressed traumatic memory she's trying to avoid. But she calls out for her dad, and given that she isn't saying father, she's likely dreaming of her biological father, not your cha. It seems she's endured hardships as well, despite her carefree demeanor. The following day, it's time for her departure. She gathers her belongings to return to the black market. Just before leaving, Songhwa embraces Baisu and tells her that they've grown close enough to be considered sisters over the past few months, so she's welcome to visit anytime. Hezin is skeptical that a visit will happen soon, but Baisu hugs her tightly and weeps, vowing to definitely return for another visit. Even Hassan finds himself hoping for her swift return. After the poignant farewell, the two journey back to the black market with their spoils. It's been some time since Hassan has been there, and the atmosphere is strikingly quieter than his previous visit. Before, it felt like brawls were erupting around every corner, and as if on cue, a scuffle breaks out right before their eyes. A customer attempts to badger a shopkeeper into a refund, despite their transaction being long over. The two begin to bicker, and a physical altercation seems imminent. Hazen inquires if Busu intends to intervene, as the situation appears to be escalating. However, she advises her companion not to fret. In the black market, the defeated party is always at fault. But in this instance, the vendor has a reason for seemingly surrendering. There's always someone designated to handle disturbances like this. He's essentially the black market's enforcer, and like a summoned entity, he eventually materializes to quell the commotion. He informs the aggressive customer that he won't tolerate any disruption to the market's operations. The customer ceases his assault on the shopkeeper and advances toward the enigmatic new combat. The newcomer remains imperturbable, maintaining his composure despite the impending confrontation. He exudes an aura of tranquility, even inclining his head slightly, as if seeking to de-escalate the situation. Yet a subtle nuance in his voice. Hazen discerns it as an oppressive force, akin to the pressure he felt emanating from Gu Gun-ai. This implies that the newcomer possesses the potential to rival the formidable strength of the Glory Guild's chairman. The appearance of such a powerful individual seems plausible, considering the need to quell a troublesome B-rank knight. The troublemaker is deceptively strong, certainly not an ordinary, inconsequential civilian. The punk strides towards the black market enforcer, declaring that his assault on the shopkeeper was justified due to the vendor's inflated prices. He portrays himself as the aggrieved party in this scenario. While his plight might evoke sympathy, the black market's regulations are unequivocal. A finalized transaction is irreversible and eternally binding, meaning he still has no right to assault a shopkeeper, simply trying to make an honest living. The hooligan releases a sigh, recognizing the futility of further discussion. Now his fists must do the talking. The man appears hesitant to engage in violence, but with a fist hurtling towards his face, he's forced to retaliate. He reacts with lightning speed, parrying the blow, and leaving the aggressor exposed. In the blink of an eye, the brawl escalates. Moments later, the troublemaking customer is left battered and bruised. Meanwhile, the lone shopkeeper emerges without a single stain on his clothing. But the thug isn't finished yet. He has a potent secret weapon. One of his abilities allows him to gain strength. The longer he fights, it's an ability that grants him increasing power with each passing moment. Seeing your own blood isn't pleasant. Nobody enjoys the sight of it. But that doesn't negate the fact that this is an incredibly perilous ability. Just from the sheer force of the surging ether, Hasten can discern that this individual has become a formidable threat. His power has elevated him. He's surpassed the rank of a B-level knight. The ruffian grows arrogant, demanding the man grovel at his feet like a dog. Yet, even as he taunts, he unleashes a flurry of punches, intent on avenging the agony he endured moments before. But as the dust settles, a shocking realization dawns upon him. He's been pummeling nothing but air this whole time. The man materializes beside him, seemingly unscathed. Consumed by blind fury, the thug throws another desperate punch. However, instead of a simple evasion, the attack is wholly deflected, redirected back to its origin. This feat transcends mere skill. Hasten is baffled, unable to comprehend the method. Even witnessing it firsthand, he remains perplexed. Regardless of the thug's relentless assaults, each strike is returned to sender, as if by some inexplicable reversal. At one point, the thug's fists flailed wildly, connecting only with air as he desperately tried to land a blow. After toying with the assailant for a bit, it was finally time to conclude the altercation. Employing an uncanny ability, the man seemingly replicated himself, materializing in 3 distinct locations simultaneously. Each apparition then unleashed a devastating strike upon the thug, forcing him to crumple to his knees and collapse. Despite the seemingly effortless victory, Baisu remarked that it was uncommon for him to exert that level of force, implying that the troublemaker possessed considerable strength. With the antagonist neutralized, Baisu retrieved her phone and summoned the remaining members of the cleanup crew to dispose of the unconscious offender. Hasten remained fixated on the sheer magnitude of the man's power. According to Baisu, that was merely a glimpse of his true potential. Even after such a strenuous engagement, he barely seemed winded. His physical prowess was akin to a knight's, yet he also commanded the illusionary magic of an esper. Without further evidence, confirmation remained elusive. Hasten urgently requests V1 to analyze the man's capabilities. Shockingly, V1 returns with no information. It appears the man's records have been completely purged. This strongly suggests the man is far from an average hunter. After further investigation, V1 finally retrieves some valuable data. The man's name is Aji Ho, a 49-year-old hunter. Unfortunately, a significant portion of his data has been wiped clean, making it challenging to uncover more details. However, V1 manages to verify his physical prowess, at the time of data deletion, was equivalent to an E-level knight. This seems improbable, given his effortless defeat of an A-rank fighter. But V1 is invariably accurate in such assessments. He has little time for further contemplation, as the man suddenly materializes before him, startling Hassan beyond measure. Ignoring his embarrassing, high-pitched shriek, Hassan and the man exchange introductions, and his affable nature is a stark contrast to the quiet menace he exuded earlier. It's quite jarring. It's difficult to reconcile this amiable demeanor with someone affiliated with the black market. It's almost unbelievable that an individual like this operates within the shadows of the underworld. The trio proceeds to rendezvous with Yacha to exchange the sunflowers procured from the perilous poison dungeons. The transaction totals a staggering 7.5 billion won. The black market patriarch congratulates him on escaping destitution and securing such a substantial sum. The topic of conversation shifts, and Yacha inquires about his registration as a healer for the upcoming hunter examination. Hasten discloses that healing is merely a facet of his comprehensive abilities. His aspiration to become a full-fledged healer stems from deeply personal aspirations. Furthermore, he's unable to utilize his true potential as a hunter in its entirety. Naturally, he remains silent about Kirill and his rigorous training under Dr. Jean. Therefore, the remaining details are classified. However, the limited information divulged appears to suffice for Yacha. The imposing figure decides to conclude their business for the day. But Hasten isn't quite finished yet. Yacha cautions him against getting any bright ideas, but chooses to humor him for the time being. Our protagonist boldly requests compensation for the information he just divulged. The audacious demand brings a smile to Father's face. He inquires about the consequences of refusing to pay. But Hasten already knows that's not a possibility. When it comes to striking deals, Yacha is the most reliable individual in the black market. He wouldn't decline a request like this. Moreover, Hasten is a significant client, and Yacha wouldn't jeopardize their rapport over a trivial sum. Impressed, Yacha awards him 95 points for his audacity and masterful negotiation skills. The remaining 5 points are deducted for his blatant rudeness. Yacha accepts the deal and proposes a larger payment. But Hasten has another proposition. He desires to apprentice under the veteran, to become his protege and learn his methods. Yacha contemplates for a moment. But the price of knowledge and combat instruction doesn't quite compute. Even surrendering all his recent earnings wouldn't suffice to cover the fee. Hazen entertains this as a possibility, proposing to become indebted to Yacha for the remainder. His sole condition, the opportunity to train. This is a perilous gamble, considering the creditor he's chosen. Yacha is notorious for dismantling debtors who fail to settle their accounts promptly. Baisu attempts to intervene, hoping to avert a potentially fatal error. But Hezen's resolve is unshakable. A poisoner's potency is their paramount weapon, but his combat prowess is sorely lacking. At present, this risk is unavoidable. Yacha inquires why the boy is going to such lengths, even resorting to a blatantly foolish decision, just to enhance his fighting abilities. Hassan explains that a hunter's prowess directly correlates to their arsenal. The more weapons, the more formidable they become. He admits to only witnessing Aji Ho in combat once, but that fleeting glimpse was sufficient to convince him of the technique's immense utility. He emphasizes the urgency of investing in this opportunity for self-improvement. He confesses that his past victories solely relied on the overwhelming power of poison steps. Without it, he's no more skilled than a novice hunter. Left to fight on his own, he's just a greenhorn. Once a hunter awakens, their rank rarely changes throughout their lifetime. It remains largely static. This implies that Aji Ho is likely still an E-rank hunter, yet possesses martial arts skills so potent they transcend rank limitations. Hassan slams the suitcase back down, vowing to procure the remaining funds somehow. He's desperate to finalize the agreement and commence training immediately. Sensing Hassan's eagerness, Yacha consents to the deal. Unexpectedly, he returns the money to Hassan, since he gains nothing from swindling him now. Later, he'll disclose the true cost of their agreement after the training is complete. With that settled, the trio exits the room. But before departing, Yacha inquires of Heisen if he has any desire to learn from the infamous father of the black market. The response is an immediate and resounding no, with Heisen possessing the good sense to understand that training under such a man could prove fatal. Yacha departs with a chuckle, and Heisen turns to leave as well, fully aware that the hunter exams are the next major hurdle he must overcome. As he's leaving, Baisu calls out to him, offering him good luck on the examination, bringing a smile to Heisen's face. He's utterly confident that he'll claim first place in the exams. The hunter exams exist because, in addition to dungeons, there are also metahumans, individuals who exploit their newfound abilities for nefarious purposes. Thus, the Hunters Association conducts an annual examination to recruit promising individuals, bolstering their ranks in the fight for justice. This renowned exam is notorious for its demanding standards. Moreover, becoming a hunter is a profession that eclipses even celebrities in popularity. The entire nation eagerly anticipates the exam, with citizens perpetually speculating whether this year will witness the emergence of another S-rank hunter. Amidst this anticipation and apprehension, this year's hunter exam finally commences. Two individuals navigate through the throng of aspiring hunters, one radiating enthusiasm, while the other appears weary and disenchanted. The listless man inquires of his younger subordinate whether an S-rank hunter will materialize during this year's exam, while the eager man is keen to deliver positive news. The reality is that attaining S-rank is statistically improbable. Therefore, instead of an S-rank, he's more optimistic about a hunter who will garner widespread public acclaim, will emerge this year. He yearns to witness a star hunter, someone completely dedicated to safeguarding civilians. Lately, however, only delinquents have shown up, and few individuals have chosen to utilize their abilities for the greater good. Amidst their conversation, a recognizable figure navigates through the throng. It's Eugene Wan, and as per usual, he captivates the attention of everyone around him with a radiant grin. He's a B rank the entire nation anticipates great things from, and judging by his demeanor and affable nature, he's fully cognizant of this fact. A reporter rushes towards him, eager to obtain the latest scoop on his intentions. He applied to be a healer, driven by a desire to protect people. Unlike knights or espers who vanquish monsters, he proclaims his sole aspiration is to save lives. His charisma is so potent it practically dazzles some onlookers, leaving others simply awestruck. Meanwhile, the association member from earlier remains entirely unmoved by his declaration. He perceives Eugene Wan as utterly devoid of a sense of obligation or accountability for the power he wields. It's evident that for him, being a hunter is merely a stepping stone towards achieving other ambitions. The Hunter Association's president is ailing, and the other leaders are either entrenched in corruption or plagued by unsavory rumors. Similarly, Gu Ganai, is embroiled in controversy following the Guangdong incident. Despite having a positive public image, he currently lacks the trust of the people as a hunter. The only individual he can envision, someone he implicitly trusts, is a figure from the distant past. He regards this person as the most formidable and exceptional hunter the world has ever known. However, this legendary hunter vanished long ago, fading into obscurity due to a certain undisclosed event. They have long been relegated to the shadows, and the mere mention of their name in public is sufficient to land someone in prison. For the time being, they require someone of similar caliber to materialize and dominate the world with their sheer presence. They require an individual with star potential, someone selfless, someone who acts for others without a second thought. Coincidentally, the very person he's envisioning is also navigating through the throng. And just like Eugene Wan, all eyes are magnetically drawn to him as he advances towards the registration counter. Even the woman who once regarded him with disdain now gazes upward in admiration. He submits his application, aspiring to be a healer. That individual is Chen Heisen. Meanwhile, Eugene Wan is engaged in his own personal photo shoot, accompanied by an overly enthusiastic cameraman. They momentarily pause to appreciate the stunning photographs. Eugene Wan revels in his own photogenic nature, confident in his modeling prowess. Outwardly, he maintains a modest demeanor, praising the photographer. Inwardly, however, he knows the true reason for the photograph's success, his own exceptional modeling skills. The photographer inquired about using the images for a news piece and began brainstorming a captivating headline. He conceived the title, Savior of the Next Generation. Maria Eugene Wan, seemingly pleased with the grandiose title, requested the photographer postpone submitting the article until he attained the highest rank among metahumans. Amidst the ongoing celebratory atmosphere, Hasten strode towards the hunter exam hall. The photographer immediately recognized him as a potential subject. Unfortunately, Eugene Wan also spotted him, but for an entirely different reason. He accidentally collided with Hasten, sending the B-rank healer tumbling to the ground, striking his head. He slowly regained consciousness, finding himself being supported in a manner that brought the entire crowd to a standstill. The incident nearly altered the entire genre of the manhwa. They rose from the floor, and a visibly irritated Eugene Wan straightened his clothes. His annoyance was palpable. Hasten speculated that his anger stemmed from potential cleaning expenses for the soiled attire. He proposed exchanging contact information so he can deal with the laundry later. Instead, Eugene Wan swats the phone from his hand, feigning an accident. He returns the phone to our protagonist, but the screen is now cracked. He offers to compensate for the repairs later, then leans in close to our main character, warning him to stop drawing so much attention to himself. The spotlight belongs to Eugene Wan, he asserts, and it would be problematic if anyone outshone him. With his intimidation complete, he pats Haste on the shoulder and turns to depart. But our hero isn't one to tolerate such disrespect. Standing his ground, he calls the loudmouth back. He appears particularly infuriated that the guy dared to mock his attire, especially since these clothes were handmade by his older sister. He seizes Eugene Wan by the collar, demanding an apology, a menacing glare in his eyes. The onlookers just moments ago, filled with admiration, now gazed in stunned silence as Hassan appeared poised to pummel Eugene Wan. Despite the intense scrutiny, Eugene Wan remained unperturbed, seemingly ready to retort. But a sudden announcement boomed from the loudspeaker, informing everyone that the metahuman score measurement examination was about to commence. With the official start of the exams, participants began streaming into the hall. However, whispers about the individual who had confronted Eugene Wan continued to circulate amongst the crowd. Seizing the opportunity, the loudmouth proposed a wager to Hassan, simultaneously prying our protagonist's hand from his collar. From the force Eugene Wan displayed in freeing himself, it was evident he was a healer possessing the might of a knight. Something felt decidedly amiss, but he lacked the time to ponder it. As Eugene Wan outlined the terms of their gamble, whoever achieved the superior score in the metahuman score measurement examination will emerge victorious. The defeated party will then be obligated to surrender 10 million won to the victor. Furthermore, should Hasten triumph, his adversary will not only forfeit the aforementioned sum, but also issue a formal apology. Eugene Wan believes this wager substantial enough to intimidate our protagonist. However, Hasten has astutely documented the entire exchange as evidence. He cautions Eugene Wan to honor the agreement and settle the debt. Once the contest concludes, Eugene Wan remains oblivious to the fact that he has severely underestimated his opponent. As the proceedings progress, Maria observes the assembly, her attention particularly fixated on Eugene Wan. The young man appears to possess a significantly greater amount of ether compared to their initial encounter. He has ascended from an E-rank hunter to a considerably more formidable individual, a transformation that Maria finds perplexing. Eugene Wan lacks official hunter status. Therefore, he should have been precluded from entering dungeons. His substantial power surge defies logical explanation. Even Maria discerns that something is amiss. She resolves to consult the president, who stands silently beside her, observing the multitude. His reply is evasive, leaving her with the distinct impression he's hiding something. She recalls the rumors from a few months prior about Eugene Wan's frequent visits to the research laboratory. While the general assumption was that he was merely being shown research findings and given a tour, she suspects there might have been some clandestine experiment taking place. Following his visits to the lab, Jean Wan acquired a substantial amount of ether. She's convinced something more significant transpired behind closed doors. Time passes, and the examination period arrives. Scores fluctuate wildly, ranging from the low hundreds to the thousands. It appears anyone scoring below 1,000 is deemed to have failed. Finally, Hassan and Eugene Wan are summoned to undertake their exams together. The two stand before the measuring apparatus, preparing themselves for the assessment. All eyes are on this year's top prospect, Eugene Wan. Whispers ripple through the crowd, speculating on what score he will achieve. Being the offspring of Glory Guild's vice chairman, expectations were high for him to display at least a modicum of talent. This year's rookie class was largely underwhelming, so even a D-rank individual would be a desirable acquisition for most guilds. Eugene Wan approached the measuring device with an air of supreme confidence, placing his hand upon it. He was poised to demonstrate the overwhelming disparity in his power to everyone present. The orb emanated a soft, golden luminescence. A collective gasp filled the room as his ether permeated the space, leaving onlookers in awe. His capabilities were demonstrably superior, dwarfing those of every other applicant this year. His metahuman score, revealed at the test's conclusion, exceeded 9,000. With such an astounding result, his victory this year seemed all but guaranteed. However, the outlook for Hasten appeared bleak. To win the wager, he would have to surpass a record-breaking score. Eugene Wan observed with a smug expression as Hasten stepped forward to have his own score assessed. Under normal circumstances, such a monumental score would present an insurmountable obstacle for any competitor. Yet, he doesn't betray a hint of concern. With unwavering confidence, he strides forward and places his hand upon the orb. Instantly, it shoots out signals with a light, many times more radiant than Eugene Wan's display. His ether engulfs the entire chamber in a dazzling luminescence, eliciting a collective gasp of astonishment from the audience. Even Gu Gun is left utterly speechless, struggling to process the spectacle. As the brilliance subsides, a profound silence descends upon the room. The outcome is unprecedented. Hasten's score is immeasurable. Eugene Wan erupts in laughter, erroneously concluding that Hasten's score is too low to be quantified. He begins to suspect that the extraordinary light show was merely some elaborate special effect. As he indulges in these unfounded conclusions, the earlier staff member brushes past him, followed closely by his assistant. The staff member is revealed to be the head referee, Pyo Kayakyu, and his subordinate, Choi Gang-jun. He commanded everyone to back away while they addressed the problem with Hasten's results. In Gang-jun's possession is a gleaming golden orb, radiating an energy far surpassing the device initially employed. For the preliminary assessment, they request Gang-jun utilize this orb for a second evaluation of Hasten's capabilities. This instrument possesses significantly greater sensitivity compared to its predecessor, rendering even the slightest manifestation of Hasten's ether flow sufficient for precise measurement. This apparatus is known as a gold core, a superior core exclusively reserved for assessing formidable boss monsters, posing a threat level exceeding 7 stars. The very nature of this device, designed to gauge monstrous ether, implies that the individual subjected to its analysis must possess power akin to a monster. Throughout history, only a single hunter has undergone evaluation using a gold core, though the outcome remains shrouded in mystery. Now, Hasten becomes the second hunter to attain this distinction. His score registers an astounding 100,000 points. Within mere seconds, the crowd erupts in a frenzy of cheers, engulfing him. Reporters outside the venue frantically disseminate news of the emergence of a new S-rank hunter, as throngs of people converge upon Hasten. Overwhelmed by the sudden surge of attention, he finds himself besieged by countless individuals eager to speak with him. He resorts to utilizing poison steps, a swift escape technique, to evade his fervent admirers, before they can overwhelm him like a horde of the undead. Fortunately, his velocity defies their perception, leaving them bewildered by his vanishing act. He seizes this opportunity to make his escape, but first, he must collect his rightful winnings from the now humbled Eugene Wan. Despite his knuckles turning white from clenched fists, blood welling beneath his skin, Eugene Wan begrudgingly offers an apology. Uttering those words seems to drain the life from him. Hasten momentarily scowls, arms crossed, before casually tossing a slip of paper inscribed with his account information. He departs, leaving Eugene Wan consumed by silent fury, practically spitting blood. Eugene Wan vows vengeance upon the man who inflicted such profound humiliation. Elsewhere, two brothers observe the unfolding events with keen interest. These individuals are G.A. Hunshin and G.A. Yulchin, the esteemed guild masters of Bishop Guild. Hasten's remarkable score piques their curiosity. The gold core's maximum reading is 100,000 points. Hasten achieving this score signifies that the true extent of his capabilities remains unknown. They resolve to recruit Hasten into their guild, regardless of the cost, particularly given the loss of promising prospects the previous year. Nearby, another observer watches the scene unfold, a mixture of resentment and fascination etched upon their face. It's Guggenai, and what he's just witnessed has confirmed that his initial evaluation of Hasten was completely off the mark. With the first trial finished, the second test is a practical examination. Hasten stands before a colossal tiger monster. His objective, to heal it, while the first test gauged a hunter's potential. This second test is a true exhibition of a hunter's healing prowess. All the subjects are wounded monsters, and to succeed, they simply need to mend the creature. But a quick glance around makes it clear that the odds are undeniably stacked against him. Every other participant has been assigned small monsters, while his designated target is an enormous tiger. This beast appears far more formidable than the centipede he battled in the venomous dungeon. He ponders how they managed to capture something so potent. Even V1's analysis can't identify it, implying this creature is something entirely atypical. It's evident the vice chairman's son must have orchestrated this. He briefly contemplates precisely how he'll heal this beast, when a voice suddenly addresses him. It's the tiger, inquiring if Hasten intends to kill it. It appears our protagonist is the only one who can comprehend it, and it sounds utterly displeased. Humans once ravaged its core, leaving it in this wretched condition. But Hasten reassures the massive tiger he's not there to harm, but to rescue it. The monster remains skeptical, even if Hasten is truthful. The tiger's core is already irreparably damaged. Healing it will be far from a simple feat. Hasten resolves to demonstrate his healing capabilities. Instead of offering empty platitudes, he must heal the tiger. Its demise would spell trouble for him as well. With that resolve, he activates his healing ability. The tiger is rendered speechless as its wounds miraculously mend. It's fascinating to observe him work. As most entrants lack any healing expertise, it's hard to fathom him being a novice hunter. The guild masters of Bishop Guild grow increasingly intrigued by it. The tiger also discerns that this isn't Hasten's first healing endeavor. Our protagonist possesses the skills of someone who has dedicated countless hours to honing their healing craft. Hasten understands that healing a monster with a shattered core will take a toll on him as well. Despite trembling with fatigue, he remains resolute in his mission to heal the tiger. The tiger implores him to cease the healing, lest he suffer grievous injury from the repercussions. But Hasten's determination only intensifies. He assures the tiger he's far more resilient than he appears. The tiger begins to wonder if he truly possesses the ability to mend all its wounds. But Hasten intends to surpass even that. The tiger is astonished by Hasten's almost humane treatment, accustomed as it is to cruelty. Monsters kill humans for sustenance. Hatred towards them is natural. Yet, humans inflict the same violence upon each other. Conversely, there might be monsters capable of saving humans. Hyson sees no reason to refuse aid, simply because the recipient is a monster. With that, the healing concludes. As an added gesture, Hyson weakens the chains confining the monster. When the moment is opportune, the tiger can seize the chance to break free. The monster calls Hyson a naive fool, but expresses gratitude nonetheless. It tells Hyson that this is the second instance of human compassion it has experienced, the first being from an enigmatic woman. Then, it reveals its true form. The tiger is not a monster, but a spirit. It is the guardian spirit of the great spirit world, the imperial tiger. After this revelation, the prompt requests Hason's name, and our protagonist introduces himself, declaring his ambition to become the world's most formidable hunter. With that bold statement, the imperial tiger pledges half its life to Hyson's service. Hyson, delighted with his new ally, christens it Huge Tiger, a moniker inspired by its impressive size. Imperial Spirit Tiger is simply too cumbersome a name to recall. Huge Tiger accepts the nickname, despite its simplicity, recognizing the urgency of the situation. The trial concludes, and it's time to wrap up. Referipeo declares Hyson victorious, having successfully passed the test. He departs triumphantly. Meanwhile, another participant struggles immensely, attempting to complete his practical examination. Eugene Wan has been diligently trying to heal the small creature before him, but time has run out. A staff member informs him that he must vacate the hall. The vice chairman's son pleads for just one more minute to continue practicing his healing, but the examination has officially ended. It appears he's the sole participant, unable to mend his designated target. Referee P.O. makes an announcement, ordering Eugene Wan to cease using his abilities immediately. The test must be equitable for all participants. Granting him additional time would be unjust to the other examinees. Infuriated, Eugene Wan demands P.O.'s departmental affiliation, threatening to report this perceived disrespect to the vice chairman. Unfazed, P.O. instructs Gang Jun to escort him out. The junior referee readily complies, forcefully removing the protesting young man. This action is not solely for the integrity of the exam, but also for Eugene Wan's well-being, as he appears to be on the verge of ether depletion. Upon hearing this, Eugene Wan notices blood trickling from his nose. Despite this, he desperately implores for another opportunity. But it's too late. He barely scraped by this time, relying solely on chance. As this unfolds, Hyson walks past them, exiting. Their eyes meet. Hyson silently mocks Eugene Wan before departing with a laugh. This leaves Eugene Wan utterly humiliated. Later, P.O. is summoned to the vice chairman's office. The vice chairman is displeased with his son's treatment. He's learned that his son received a level E ranking. P.O. confirms this, explaining that despite a high score on the initial test, his practical performance was subpar. The vice chairman refuses to listen, angrily flinging objects from his desk, and alleges the referee interfered with Jinwa's evaluation. The vice chairman continues berating his subordinate, but the man is hardly paying attention. Instead, his thoughts drift to the ailing chairman, who hasn't been seen publicly for some time. The vice chairman then inquires about the gold core, utilized during the examination. Apparently, after Hyson's use, it ended up shattered. The man is infuriated by its exorbitant cost. The core has completely disintegrated due to some kind of noxious ether contamination. Immediately following Hyson's test, it's now entirely useless. The vice chairman orders its disposal. Back in the main hall, Maria personally presents Hyson with his hunter badge, as a throng of journalists surrounds them, snapping photos. With the hunter exam concluded, he's officially designated an S-rank hunter. Healer Eugene Wu, on the other hand, barely managed to qualify with an E rank. He possessed far too much ether for his skill level, and his ostentatious display made it public knowledge. His business at the association finished. Hyson prepares to depart, but upon exiting the building, he's engulfed by a sea of reporters, all vying for the first exclusive with Korea's newest S-rank hunter. The sheer number of people clamoring to interview him is remarkable, considering he just passed the exam. News travels quickly, it seems. Some reporters invade his personal space, and he barely suppresses his annoyance, as microphones are thrust in his face. The reporters then begin jostling among themselves, practically crushing Hyson's face. He's finally forced to intervene. He seizes the nearest microphone and bellows into it, demanding silence and attention. The crowd momentarily quiets, and everyone turns towards Hasan, their gazes fixed on it. He declares he's temporarily unavailable for interviews, before launching himself skyward with a burst of speed, vanishing from sight in a blur. He alights on the association's rooftop, ready to dash home. But, yet again, his escape is thwarted by the two Bishop Guild leaders, who've been observing him all along. They introduce themselves and immediately cut to the chase, extending an invitation for him to join the Bishop Guild. In return, they pledge to fulfill every single one of his demands. Hyacinth rejects their proposition, stating he has no current intentions of joining any guild. However, another individual inserts himself into the discussion, and it's evident he won't accept refusal. Chairman Ganai materializes, and his intimidating presence completely transforms the mood. He then summons Hasan to the Glory Guild. Later, the vehicle races down the highway. Inside, the driver discusses how Eugene Wang barely qualified as an E-rank. He was apparently born with deficiencies, rendering any experimentation on him futile. Despite this, he still managed to enter the Glory Guild with minimal talent. His performance could have been superior, however, if not for his recklessness. As he continues his monologue, he observes that his passenger wears a contented smile. It's Ganai, particularly cheerful today, due to an intriguing event. Earlier on the rooftop, Hasan displayed clear displeasure at Ganai's audacity in suggesting he join the Glory Guild. Ganai, especially, was in no position to make him offers. Galchen, unaware of their history, assumed Hasan was referencing the Bishop Guild's prior invitation. He initially attempts to push Ganai away, but Ganai effortlessly swats his hand aside, like a bothersome insect. Annoyed, Gohanshin resents the disrespectful treatment of his brother. Infuriated, Gohanshin unleashes his ice powers to menace Ganai. He unleashes his cryokinetic abilities, threatening Ganai. The Glory Guild chairman, completely unfazed, utilizes his ether to shatter the ice attacks. A confrontation seems imminent between the three men, and the atmosphere grows thick with tension. Gontian appears to ridicule Ganai's sudden surge of self-assurance, pointing out that no matter how severely they beat him, Maria will always be there to heal him. Provoked, Ganai launches the first strike, lunging forward with a punch. But Yulchin effortlessly deflects. Yulchin's face is contorted with fury, enraged that anyone would dare attack his brother. Both brothers, like Ganai, possess S-rank abilities. A clash between these three powerhouses could easily obliterate the city. Galchen urgently commands his brother to halt the devastating assault he's about to unleash, reminding him they are in a populated area. Their recruitment efforts have already backfired spectacularly. They've displayed a disgraceful spectacle of infighting. They implore him to reconsider their proposition, suggesting they attempt recruitment again later. He promptly rejects their offer. The Bishop Guild is too distant from his residence. However, if they permit him to work remotely, he might entertain their proposal. Despite declining their employment, he vehemently declares he'd rather perish than join the Glory Guild. Ganai smirks, remarking that his stubbornness is only temporary. Ultimately, he asserts Hasan's rightful place is within the Glory Guild. With that, the men disperse. The recruitment of the newly recognized S-rank, Hasan, a failure. Officially registered as a hunter, he must now confront the next stage of his legitimate hunter career, the universal rite of passage for every hunter. They grapple with the ever-present reality of mortality. Countless dungeon hunters have perished in beginner dungeons, victims of their own overconfidence, foolishly venturing into them alone. This recklessness leads to senseless deaths. Consequently, the Hunter Association implemented a specific regulation. All hunters must successfully clear 5 3-star or lower-ranked dungeons in groups of 5 before solo entry into dungeons appropriate for their skill level is permitted. This is known as the Hunter Probation System. Therefore, despite Hasan possessing ample strength to tackle normal dungeons solo, he's forced to climb the ranks from the bottom once again. To avoid any complications, he arrives at the designated rendezvous point and unites with his newly assigned team. 2 members in particular are visibly thrilled to see him, rushing over to make their introductions. They are Do Song and Do Chan, Esper's siblings embarking on their journey as fledgling hunters. Hasan reciprocates with his own introduction, then inquires about the remaining 2 members of their quintet. The other teammates appear less amicable than the siblings, chuckling at Hasan's presence before divulging their names. Park Hyasang and Kim Chuho, they announce themselves. Their demeanor